Shalom, everyone. I thought maybe we would take a walk, thinking maybe you were missing Midway a little bit. I got into the building. No one is supposed to be really in here, but I have the key. So let's take a little walk. Actually, the house of God is looking just a little bit on the lonely and the empty side these days. This year I've been hard-pressed to wish anyone Chag Sameach, happy holiday. It's not that I expect a sad Passover, I do not, but with no clear foreknowledge of who is mourning the loss of a loved one or anxious over the health of another, I'm loath to throw around the happiness greeting and have opted instead for the more staid Chag Kasher V'Bari, a kosher and healthy holiday. It seems more appropriate, especially for us New Yorkers who seem to be headed this week for the peak of diagnosed cases of COVID-19 coronavirus. That peak experience, which is more an emotional pit than peak, will coincide with another peak experience, the Festival of Freedom, and that creates all sorts of ironies and a rush of reflections, one of which I share with you right now. In the story of the Exodus itself, there is a peak moment with the timing of the 10th and most horrible plague, the killing of the firstborn. When does it happen? Vayehi b'chatzi halayla. It happened at midnight. Midnight. That point perfectly positioned between the first ray of dawn peeking over the horizon and the last ray of the dusk that sinks below the horizon. That is when the Malach HaMavet, the angel of death, went through the land of Egypt and took the lives of the firstborn. Vatehi tza'aka gedola b'Mitzrayim. And there was this great outcry in all of Egypt. Ki ein bait asher ein sham mate. There was not one household where there was not one death. Our community has done much to raise the spirits of everyone in it through music and humor and prayer. But I am mindful that we New Yorkers, our neighbors in New Jersey, are at the phase of Tza'aka Gedola, a great outcry. Why? Ki ein bait asher ein sham mate, because all of us know someone who is ill, someone who is hospitalized, someone who has been taken from us far too early in their lives due to this scourge, this plague called corona. But here's the thing about the angel of death's midnight run. It was perhaps because midnight is a midpoint, the peak of a curve, a turning point. Death for some, but the beginning of liberation for others. It's really awful to contemplate this idea that some had to die in order for others to be free. And so too, in our own time, the tragedy of untimely death is something over which we must grieve, but we dare not lose sight of the dawn that is sure to bring the darkness to an end. It's as if the two must accompany one another. We keep that dawn in mind, not because we are insensitive or impervious to pain. We keep that dawn in mind because it is not death, but salvation that we associate with God. That's faith. And that faith is what brings us through the night to face a new day. And remember this too. Just because we have left Egypt, our freedom is not yet assured. There will be a sea to cross. And as we ride the backside of the curve downward, the diagnoses of those having contracted the virus diminishing over time, we will have to exercise caution. And there is no telling what this will mean for anything, for holidays or businesses, life cycle events, and so forth. In the weeks to come, we will have to see what happens. But this we have discovered or rediscovered over the past few weeks. Our vulnerability, our mortality, our interdependence with each other, the extraordinary acts of kindness and selflessness that ought to soften our view of exactly what kind of an animal we humans are, and our faith in God, who brings us through the most arduous of circumstances, bringing salvation to a people who very much feels, as did our ancestors, trapped between the raging sea and a rabid mob of soldiers. This too shall pass. May no scourge or plague touch you or your loved ones. May all the unseemly in life pass over you, and may you find the faith to overcome all the obstacles that stand in your way. Accept of people who are sure to fill this sanctuary someday. And I'm going to be there with you, celebrating and thanking God for our good fortune. Chag Kasher v'Bari, a very kosher and a very healthy Pesach to you all.